Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Clever Coin, and I have a special guest today. This guy is a wealth of knowledge, and I hope most of you guys know who he is. His name's Value Hunter. I have his channel linked down below. Make sure you guys go check it out. Say what's up to the people, Value Hunter.
What up? What up? Hey, YouTube, how you doing? And hey, Clever Coin, thanks for having me on tonight.
Yo, yeah. I'm super excited. We were talking for quite a bit before we came on live because we forgot about, another a bunch of other people's had streams going on. Corn, what's going on, my friend? I hope all is well. Off Grid Power, what's up? We're gonna just go ahead and let the people trickle in. So we can just start off with how was your day? Did you have a good day today? Are you ready for your Christmas? Any plans that you want to share with us?
Plans, man. Family stuff. I've got 3 kids, and so plans around Christmas typically involve a lot of wrapping paper, and actually, trying to do it all in one sitting with 3 kids. That's the thing. Just trying to get through it all without having to take a break for food or something like that.
Wow. I am horrible at wrapping gifts. I kind of force, uh, I don't force my girlfriend to do it, but I kind of ask nicely, and she wraps all the gifts except her own gift, of course. She can't be wrapping her own stuff, so I have to wrap those. But yeah, what's going on, Alex Coin Roll Hunter? Yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and wait for the people to trickle in a little bit longer, but yeah, I'm excited for Christmas, man. I live in Southern California, the desert, so I feel like I never get the full Christmas experience because there's like no snow, and ever since I've grown up watching movies, it's always snowing in Christmas. So I guess I just never feel it.
Now, do you go to your family's place, like parents, or I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. Oh, it's usually I mean, it just depends, but yeah, I'm gonna go to the parents' house. And then I plan to go to Austin, but I mean, I don't think that's gonna happen. Oh, I wanted to go for Thanksgiving, but it couldn't work out, so I have to go maybe early next year because my brother lives in Austin, so I have to go pay him a visit. It's been a while since I've seen him.
very cool. Well, Texas is my home state, and that's my neck of the woods. So when you head out, you're going to have to hit me up with an email, and we'll get together. You throw a face to the voice finally.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be super cool.
Unless you got to reveal between now and then.
I don't know, man. People are talking me out of it.
I know. I get the same thing. I'm like, I don't know. Half the guys are streaming with their face on there, and the other half don't. I'm in the middle. I'll make that decision. Everybody, either that or I'll have like this white tiger mask, right? That I'll put on. And
Oh, there's this guy, right, that puts on a wolf face or something like that. He's
yeah,
like an OG, right? I don't know too much about him.
yeah, that's kind of crazy, man. But I mean, the internet is a crazy place. So, um, but yeah, I lived for a number of years in your neck of the woods, and actually, you're only 2 hour drive away from some pretty deep snow up there in the mountains. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's not too bad. I can within an hour. There's a Mount Baldy that's not too far. That there's snow there, but it's just like not here. But yeah. So if you want to let the people know a little bit more about you, your channel, what you got going on, we can go ahead and start by that.
sure, thanks, I appreciate it. And I think Clever Coin. I don't know when did you start your channel, or when did you start posting content up?
Shoot, I do not remember, man.
Sometime this year.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm probably like 6 months in.
Okay, I'm like very close to the same. I think I started maybe June, July timeframe, something like that, and just a really slow burn as far as mostly unboxing videos. I mean, the majority of the content on my channel is that way. You, as well as many of the other guys that started around the same time as us, it was weird. There was a crew of us that had kind of the same number of subscribers and about the same number of videos posted up, and a few of them have just like blown up overnight. I mean, they've got a lot of people viewing them. They're really integrated in the community, and back and forth. What I found was that a lot of it, I think that there was a lot of attention drawn because they started doing giveaways, and I started seeing like all these guys they're either doing giveaways, they're winning giveaways, and I totally think that's cool. I think it's great. But for me, personally on my channel, kind of the way I looked at it was, I really started because I like to stack silver and gold. From a standpoint of it being a store of wealth and a hedge against inflation and other potential economic problems. And so you purchase things periodically, and they're kind of cool to open, and that's kind of enjoyable. It's sort of like Christmas morning, right? Where it's sort of germane to this conversation, right? Because when you get a package from AppMex or Provident Metals or whoever it is that you're buying from, my original that I was buying from kind of when I started was called Money Metals Exchange, and they were the first gold and silver. The reason I went to them, they were the first gold and silver or bullion dealer that I found that was taking cryptocurrencies, and that's what kind of got me back into buying bullion again, and coins. But I was like wanting to share with somebody, the excitement of opening something and seeing something that's cool. I mean, it's enjoyable, right? It's like, hey, this is a really cool thing. There's history behind it. I love old coins, specifically old US, and my kids get into it a little bit, but they're kind of like young teen years, and so it's not, it's kind of like, okay, Dad, I'm back to the Xbox, or back to football practice or whatever, and so the YouTube community, I enjoyed watching other people doing that. I thought, that's a way for me to interact. So that's really how my channel started. I haven't done any giveaways or anything. I think I'm, maybe have a couple hundred subscribers that I'm really interactive with, right? Communicate back and forth, answer comments. I'm able to do that because it's a relatively small audience, but I know that my content is relevant to all of them, right? Because they subscribe, they watch. They're not there just to see if I'll give them a free ounce of silver or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But I would have to figure out why I need a ton of subscribers, and I would want them to all think that the content is relevant for me to do something like that. And I haven't got there yet. For me, it's haven't connected. Now I've won some things and I see the value of it, but I try to be generous in my life. So it's not that I wouldn't want to give back to the community and, and share that with others, some cool things that I found, but it is kind of, I'm sort of, there's all these different categories, like Korn is saying in the chat right now, right? There's collector, and there's flippers, and, investors, and there's guys into coins, and then there's stackers, and, there's sort of the purists in each one of those categories, right? That's all they do. And there's kind of survivalists and preppers, right? And I think for the most part, a lot of us cross over into multiple categories. And that would indicate me and what my channel is about is, pretty much, just a little bit of everything. I'd say for the majority of it, like where my heart is, it's, I'm mostly a collector, but I stack quite a bit as a result.
It's kind of like a kind of, like you said, most people fall in a little bit of all of them, but a collector, that's kind of what you identify most as.
I think so. And I think I really started as a stacker. I really probably I started as a collector. I was, as a kid, my dad is a philatelic dealer. So he was into stamp collecting. His grandfather got him into that. His grandfather actually tried to push him into coin collecting, and he still has a ton of Morgans that were, given to him by my great grandfather. And my dad is just not a coin collector. He will look at gold and silver as an investment to hedge against, to be a hedge, to be a store of wealth for a portion of his portfolio, but not for anything else. But stamps, he's like me, I mean, he loves the history of them. He likes to know every little thing about every color detail on a stamp and the perforations and how, all this different stuff. And he buys a lot of high-end stuff and he resells. And for me, and it's really started as a collector and was forced to sell. And I watched that and I said, I could probably really get a good collection going if I was to buy stuff and then flip. And so so I do a little bit of flipping, and that's really how I build my collection. It's also how I build my stack. I have quite a bit of silver because I like old US coinage, which was made out of silver. So what I try to do is find old US coinage at or below melt value, wherever the spot price is, based on the content, and both silver and gold. So a lot of the gold and the silver in my collection was bought at whatever the spot price was at that time or below that, based on what I hunt for. And I keep the stuff I want, and then I resell either online or whatever, the stuff that's more commonplace, right? So I'm building numismatic value to my stack. So there's upside to it potentially that other bullion wouldn't have. And so I'm a bit of a stacker in that sense, but the coin collection is really, that's what I enjoy doing. I mean, I could sit there and go through mint marks on the back of war nickels for like hours, and people would be cross-eyed by the time, they get done, and I'm still ready to go for hours, so I'd say collecting and stuff is really my
Yeah,
deal.
I feel a lot of people definitely had that kind of collecting, coins with their parents, stamps. To be honest, I never really collected anything looking back at it. Maybe some Magic the Gathering cards or Pokemon cards, baseball cards, but I never collected any coinage or stamps or things like that. So I feel like there's a whole aspect of this community that I'm missing out on because of the fact that I'm not that much of a collector. But I want to say what's up to Silver Wolverine. We have West Coast Stacker in the house. If I missed you, Julian, Bullion, what's going on, guys? Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. You hearing, Value Hunter and myself talk about just a little bit of everything. So that's why the name Value Hunter is what it is, right? Because you find, constitutional silver for at melt or below melt.
I shoot for a significant discount to melt value or spot price. So I'm looking at, like Coinflation is a site that I frequent. I'm looking at what, and a lot of people will look at, constitutional stuff like, as silver coins or lots of them, like a roll of Washington quarters is an example, right? And they will overlook very common constitutional items that you'll see me open up on my unboxing videos. For instance, proof sets or mint sets, right? Like if you buy a 64 or older mint set, or a Canadian is even a better example, right? Because there's 1.1 ounces of silver in a 1967 or older Canadian mint set. And you can find those at auction. Often the U.S. collector overlooks the Canadian stuff because, they don't cross over into foreign as often. And so those things will go for $10 or $12. So I'm getting 1.1 ounces of silver plus a couple of extra coins, the nickel and the cent, for a few dollars below spot price. That's kind of a common example that I would use of what I do, looking for deep value, deep discount to, where spot price is.
Wow, yeah, that's a huge thing that, I mean, I don't know too many people that go to estate sales or private auctions like that. But I heard a story today. I met up with a friend, and he wanted a coin from me, so I just sold it to him, pretty much what I paid for it. And we were just talking at a coffee shop, and he said that one of someone that he knew, I think from work, one of the parents died, and the kids just sold their silver pretty much to someone like you, I guess, because they had no idea that it was silver, and they just sold it to someone for pretty much what it was worth, or they just transferred the quarters into dollars, and then that's just like, wow, for not knowing. And like we were talking before, for someone that was putting in all their time and effort towards something like that, just for it to go down like that, it's kind of
that could be a bummer. I'll tell you, the majority of what I do is through auction houses and online, right? So I look online for auctions. Everybody has got auction houses in their area, whether they know about it or not. And if they will Google, if they will research, if they'll go to different sites, you can find those auctions. You can type in the keywords and find out which ones have coinage. What I do is I go on auction sites and, I'll look at, if they have a weekly auction or whatever, and I'll type in the word proof and I'll type in the word mint set. I used to type coin and I used to type silver, but those were drawing a lot of attention. And I noticed that there was lots that were being auctioned off that were not, going for as much. So, they were a better deal. And I was spending a lot of time researching the other stuff to figure out what it was. You get foreign coins, etc. But I have had a couple of things where people have come to me and said, a couple of examples where people have come to me and said, hey, there's a family loss, and they want to liquidate, and they know that I know certain things about coins, and so they'll ask me, and I've basically given them kind of a quasi appraisal on what they have, and I said, look, part of this is I resell stuff, but I also collect. So and or stack, however you want to look at that. And so I would offer you a certain amount for these items. Some of them are going to be out of my price range. You're better off, going to an auction house, or I would resell them for you and, work something out. But I will tell them that that's the case. And I feel a lot better. I sleep, I think, better at night because of that. I think that, if you're out there, you can be opportunistic to a fault, right? Where you're almost like taking advantage of others. And I don't know. I watch these guys, this show, American Pickers. I know everybody on here's probably seen it, right? It's funny because those guys will go in and, some guy will be like, they'll say, hey, what do you want for that item? It's some collection that his father's had in a barn for years. And he'll say, oh, I don't know, 1,000. He's like, oh, really? I'll give you 5,000 for it, And I think that's pretty cool, because they know what the real value is. They're still going to make money. And, that guy could find out later that it was worth way more. And they wouldn't have a TV show today if that's how they operated. Right. And so I think there's just a certain amount of karma and, the way treat others the way you want to be treated, it's kind of the universal law. And, so that's what I try to do. And so usually the stuff's already been up for sale, and posted. I'm bidding against other people. It's not just like I'm getting an opportunity to kind of get one over on somebody, but I still find good deals. I'll tell you one, you asked me what I did today or what was going on prep for Christmas early on, Clever. And I actually had 200 and some silver Washington quarters that I purchased at auction. And I was going through those and I was like looking at them by date. I was looking at the back of them for, repunch mint marks. I found one that I think is an S over D or a D over S. There was also a proof quarter in the bag. There was a standing Liberty quarter and there was a Mercury dime. Like I bought quarters and they had other stuff other than what it said.
Right.
And so I'm going through these and I'll probably, that's the kind of stuff that I like to stack. But I'll take the ones that are in really good condition, right? Like a lot of the 64 and newer, right? They have higher silver content because they're not as worn. Some of them, that are a little rarer dates or had a lower mintage, I'll pull those to the side and I'll throw them in a flip. And the other ones I'll roll back up and I'll throw them up on eBay, And so I was able to get, let me see if I can find my invoice. I'll give you an example, like what I did.
Right. What's going on, Lake House Beach? Thank you so much for hanging out. As you can see, we're talking to Valley Hunter, super awesome guy. And it sounds like, where's that comment? West Coast Stacker is having a nice time in the chat. I don't know, I lost the comment. But I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. I have 2 SMAs. Oh, you guys are talking about solar panels. I see now. That's pretty cool, dude.
That's what I love about the silver stacking community, man, or gold stacking community. Which you get guys talking about solar panels in your chat. They just listen to you go on and on in the background, but they have their own.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't find this particular one, which it would be a great example because I'm looking for an invoice here. But I'll give you another example. I got 2 at the same auction. I got 2 $3 gold coins. Now I know Corn's ears just perked up if he's still watching or in the chat. But I got 2 $3 gold. Let me see if I can pull them up here. I could switch the camera and show them possibly. Clever. I know it wasn't working, but at least I can get maybe out of focus. I can get them on there. But they're AU detailed, graded coins from PCGS. And so I was able to verify them that, they're authentic. And right. At the same time, it's a slabbed one of them is an 1854 and the other is an 1878, $3. And they're AU details, both of them, AU detail grade. And I got them for like just barely over melt value, right? So I will pay a little bit of a premium. Nobody else was bidding on those things. It was like one other bid out there and the guy wasn't, at the live auction. So I actually had called into this auction house and I had the catalog and I was looking at it and I bid on those 2 items and picked them up for, basically like $20 over melt.
Wow.
Which, I'm looking on eBay, those coins go for $600 or $700, which is more than twice what I paid for them. So, I'm probably gonna flip them, because I'd rather just buy some more, kind of generic stuff or reinvest those funds. But that's pretty much what I do, man. I got into stacking in around the time. I think we were talking about this earlier. I don't know if when we started, but you were asking me how I got into stacking, and we were on another chat with stacking and prepping, and the way I got into it was through multi-level marketing, actually. I told you my father's a stamp dealer, so I went into coin stores as a kid with him, and I had a little foreign coin collection, like a single collection in a box that I had bought, for $5 or whatever. And there was maybe some silver, there was copper coins, and they're old stuff, but it just sat in a box my whole life. I wasn't really a collector, so to speak. And in around 1993, I was 19, 20-year-old kid, and I was going to work at a brokerage firm. And one of my buddies that I was working with it got me involved in a multi-level marketing deal. And I don't know if you could research it. I think the name of it was called Gold Unlimited, if I'm not mistaken. And anybody that's been around a while may remember that. I mean, it's 25 years ago now, right? But I think it was called Gold Unlimited, and it was a multi-level deal where they paid you in gold bullion. Right. So I don't know, multi-level pyramid, whatever you want to call it. Right.
Right.
I think it got shut down for fraud. I think the thing got closed down. I think the pyramid collapsed. I'm pretty sure that's what happened to it. But I had a bunch of friends and neighbors and things that I'd start telling them, hey, I'm looking at this gold coin deal, and they all jumped on board too. And basically what it was is you invest in gold at a premium, right? And I mean, maybe it was at the time, I'll have to look back, but it was like, I want to say it was around $250 an ounce for gold.
Right.
So you were getting a current year American gold, Eagle coin, 1 ounce. And instead of $250 for that 1 ounce American gold Eagle coin, you were spending $350 or something like that. It was like, $375. It was like a 50% markup, right? And so all of those funds were trickling down, because when you got somebody else to sign up at that price, what they would do is they would take you and whoever else, that got you involved that was above you in the up or down line or whatever it was, they would give them 1/10 of an ounce coin. And if you hit a certain volume, you get a 1/4 ounce gold coin. So I ended up stacking a few ounces of silver as a result of that, and just like throwing it in the safe. And
of silver or gold?
Sorry, of gold. I said silver. Yeah, I meant of gold. And then I didn't really look back. I started getting into stocks, bonds, other things as far as my focus. And in '96, I started buying 1 ounce gold coins, and it was around the same price. I mean, we're in the between $200 and $300 range, and I stacked quite a bit of gold at that price, and also some silver, very minimal amount of silver, a few ounce coins. And one of the things I was telling you earlier when we were chatting is, my experience is different than most people that have been involved since the prices have significantly increased in the mid 2000s and so forth. Because when the economy turned last time in 2008, I had a need for some of that wealth that I had stored up, because I was a business owner at the time. I got hit pretty hard with it, and I actually sold all of my gold and silver stack at that point. To a bullion dealer at the mall.
Wow.
It was a single trip to the mall, and that was money to live on for a number of months. And
Yeah, he has a question for you. Sorry to interrupt. He says, network marketing. Is this an Amway channel? So
it is only, it's totally an Amway channel. Only if your name is Yankee Stacking, then we want you. We have to get you involved in this pyramid scheme.
No, he was talking about what was the company called again, Value Hunter? I
think it was called Gold Unlimited, but it's been 25 years, and I was a kid, I didn't know anything about it. I just, somebody at the brokerage firm kind of hoodwinked me into it, and as a result, I had a couple of ounces, 2 or 3 ounces of gold to show for it after.
Yeah, so that's super interesting. And then back to you. So you liquidated all your gold and silver.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I started buying in '96 till about 2002, and then in '08, the '08-'09 time frame, I sold it all. And then in 13, I started stacking again.
Okay. And because you said that the company that you started buying precious metals from, a big reason was that they accepted cryptocurrencies. So were you exposed to cryptocurrencies for a significant amount of time, or how was that?
Yeah, so I got out of brokerage and I transitioned into communications, and so but I specialized in doing communications for metals and mining companies, publicly traded metals and mining companies, and so I've represented over the years, more than 5 dozen, and many of them are, either producers or explorers within the precious metal space as well as other commodities. And so my buying experience was I would be on a road trip most of the time up to Canada, right? Or the financial hubs in the US, whether it be, Wall Street or, Chicago or San Francisco. And I would be going around on, kind of meeting people, investors on road shows and things like that, hedge fund managers, et cetera. And what ended up happening to me is I would go up to Canada and I would go to like trade shows, and these guys would be selling silver and gold at the trade show. And so that's how I was stacking. I was going to trade show. I would just buy some bullion from them,
Wow.
like right over, over the counter. And then I'd have it in my luggage. I'd, come back on the plane, a few ounces of silver, whatever, quarter ounce of gold, whatever it was. And that was about 2013 timeframe. 2011 to 13 timeframe for me is about when I started, trying to start building the stack up a little bit. And then in 2015, I hadn't been on the road for a little while. I was looking to make a purchase, and I was looking at the different bullion dealers. And at the same time, I was hearing about Bitcoin, because a lot of the guys in the metals and mining public company space that I was following and I was listening to and subscribing to their, their stories, their pitch or whatever. And they were basically had moved into a pretty bear period of their, trading activity. And so a lot of them had kind of switched their focus into cryptocurrencies. And so I started hearing on the channels I'd watch, everybody's talking about crypto within the community that on YouTube that I was listening to, and, the different financial channels that I was on. And, I learned about it, but I was scared, to like get involved in something that was probably like a tulip bulb type of scenario. And so I said, if I could utilize this stuff for actual commerce, I would, put some money in cryptos, right? If I think it could be viable, but I want to see if it works as a, can I buy a cup of coffee with it? So I said, let me see if I could transact some business. So I bought a single Bitcoin for $400 at whenever that time frame was. I think it was 2015. You guys have to look at the chart to figure that one out. But around that time frame, and I found this metals dealer, this bullion dealer called Money Metals Exchange, that actually was, I think I just typed into Google, bullion for Bitcoin or something like that, and that came up. And I looked at the other ones, and they were not accepting cryptos, and so I did a transaction, and I bought. I bought a tube of silver at that point, and I still, I held on to the silver. The Bitcoin, even today, people look at the craziness of, the cryptocurrencies, and that Bitcoin would be worth tenfold what I had paid for it. But it opened me up to buying more, right? Like, so it served its purpose, because I don't regret that I used it to buy silver, because it made me comfortable with buying some more Bitcoin and stuff. And so I got exposed at a pretty low price to the cryptocurrencies, and, carried that through into buying quite a few of them during that 2000 and, kind of 16 to 17 timeframe. And then it just been holding on to them. I mean, I haven't really done anything with that. I put enough of a percentage of what I wanted allocated over there. And, I'm just waiting for a better, I should have exited. I mean, I kind of saw the writing on the wall, right? When it got toppy, I mean, should have known, but I think it's easier to buy stuff than it is to sell. And that's the crux of the problem for any investor out there, right? And just from personal experience, I'd say that's my issue, right? It's always easy to buy, and it's tough to sell, at least at the right times, right? I mean, like,
Well, it's because you're the fear of missing out, right? It's at 15,000. Oh my God, it's gonna keep going. It's at 20,000. Oh my goodness, it's gonna keep going, and you just the fear of missing out. It's like the wrong mindset. But you're better off just collecting your profit and survive to fight another day essentially. Um, but still, if your dollar cost average is fairly low, I know Bitcoin. What is it at right now? $4,000. So I think Julian said that. So if you got in at sub 1,000, like you're not doing too bad. But again, if you could have sold at 15K, then you might be kicking yourself a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm in it probably above the 400 price range that I bought at originally, but I'm still doing. I mean, it's maybe it's a 5-bagger for me, not a 10-bagger, but
That's not bad at all, dude.
yeah, I mean, there's profit there to take, right? It's just a question of, okay, what's going to happen? And then I look at the stock market. I mean, it's just been in the toilet ever since that it kind of hit its highs. And now you look at what's going on in the stock market, which I've been expecting to happen like a lot sooner than it has. I mean, and I think as we, come to, an end of a period of QE and, you've got, the Fed going against the White House as far as interest rate hikes, all the different, it's sort of a perfect storm is forming here that all of us have been seeing on the horizon that are in this, community. And so I look at it and say, it's interesting that, gold and silver is going to fare well in those kind of times, I think typically, and, safe haven investments is where a lot of money moves when there's tumult in the, in the broader markets. But what's interesting is the cryptos have actually, started to move some. I mean, you're seeing some green, which is like, you haven't seen that in a long time, right? And so I'm wondering if that's like a new asset class that, people are considering. It'll be interesting to see what happens to those, depending on, how volatile the moves and the moves in the market are.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely going to be interesting. But also a lot of people, I guess, even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? That saying, like if you keep repeating something over and over again, it's bound to happen, and then you can tell people, oh, see, look, I was right. So I know a lot of people were saying that Bitcoin was going to come down. I think Peter Schiff was one of them, saying that Bitcoin was going to come back down to whatever, but maybe it's because he's just pushing gold and silver, and he just wants people to invest in that asset instead of being diversified into cryptocurrencies. But what would you recommend? Like not what would you recommend, but do you have any other cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin or anything else that kind of piques your interest?
First of all, I wouldn't recommend anything just
Right,
because
right.
I don't know who I'm talking to, and also, friends and family, I would tell them what I'm doing. But even outside of that, like, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't give financial advice, nothing like that. I just talk about my own experience. But I have about probably a dozen or so different things. And really, I got into most of them when the market was sort of at the top on the cryptos. But I was moving from one crypto to another at that point, right? So it didn't, like, I had loaded up really on Litecoin, Bitcoin, and Ethereum, and then what happened was a lot of, like, you had the the ERC20 tokens that were coming out on the Ethereum platform, and I started seeing some of those. I applied a real I noticed more than like traders or technical guys. I applied more of like a fundamental approach. I would try to look at these management teams and see which one of them's had a reasonable background within the tech space, which one of them, which ones had done a cryptocurrency before that maybe they got an exit on, and try to vet out to a certain extent what the potential was for them to have lightning strike twice. Because I don't think, I think people that are successful breed success, right? And the ones that don't, or that are trying to take advantage, we've seen what's happened. I mean, you've got government agencies starting to crack down and make rules on a lot of those. A lot of those guys are starting to face some actions based on the way they were going about their business. But there's enough of them out there that I think you can do some reasonable research on. Around the time that I've got into the 10 or so that I'm in that were ICOs, I think is what they're known as.
Right.
There was probably 300 of them that it hit within a 3-month period or 6-month period during that time. So,
and are these like buy and holds for you, or is it just 10 coins that you're trading? Do you trade, or are you like a swing trader, or long-term holder?
Yeah, no. So I have a business partner that was a former specialist on the New York Stock Exchange, and so he was doing some trading for us. I'm not a trader. I don't get it. I mean, there's just even the technical data is right over my head for the most part. So I just try to find what stories I think resonate and there's a need for, or could actually gain some traction, and then I would put them on his radar. And then if he thought that was something that we should move into, that's what we did. It was kind of partnering up with somebody and sharing the exposure to risk. But the yeah, so there was some trading, but very limited. I mean, most of the time, most of what we did was just buy, and we ended up buying in and out of a few of them, but we've held on for the most part. And I don't think they're buy and holds. I really don't. I just think that one or more of these coins is going to find a use, of a very broad use, and as a result, there'll be an increase of value. It may not even be any that exists right now, and it may be a totally different platform by that time. But I picked 10 or 12 of them that I thought had a chance of being that type of scenario, or at least having a much broader application than they're currently used for as they grow these companies. And that's kind of why that's what I'm looking for, is the one that goes kind of 100 to 1 on me, and then you know what I mean. It's that one that kind of carries the whole
Right.
whole crowd.
What is it? Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule, right? Like 20% of what you bought is going to give you 80% of the gains.
Yeah.
So you pick 10, maybe one of them, well, let's hope hits.
That's it. I mean, yeah, and it's probably you need 100 to maybe find that one. So it's that principle's probably been dwindled down to something as high risk as these. And the biggest nightmare is the tax implications. My first year, it was kind of, last year was my first year doing it. Then I filed taxes, and what ended up being put my entire trading list, everything that we had done in front of, and like basically I ended up with this huge liability because I had put the money in, right, to purchase, but you buy in Bitcoin or in Ethereum, and then every other thing that I had bought in, the exit from one to another, even though it was like not a liquidity event, they treated as such. So it was basically like the tax treatment on it is, you're basically, unless it's trading at the same price, which it wasn't, right? You're basically, let's say you bought Bitcoin at 2,000 and then you wanted to buy something with your Bitcoin, which is another token, right? It would be like an exchange for another token. You're not actually pulling the cash out. And what would happen is they would tax you on the 2,000 that you profited right at that time, even though all the money's still tied up in another cryptocurrency, right? So that's kind of how the tax treatment was. So last year slowed me way down after that experience. And I just basically said, well, we'll hold on to what we have. We'll quit trying to buy new ideas. And I'll go back to just focusing on buying Washington silver quarters. And
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing that a lot of people, at least I know, like I mentioned my cousin, yeah, he made quite a bit of money, and I told him, like, do taxes, and then he's like, but I know so many people that aren't paying them, and like, dude, pay your taxes. You don't want the IRS on you. And then look at what's happening now, back taxes, and people are paying for it now.
Yeah, that's I know. I mean, look, everybody's got their theories on that. You have, I mean, especially in this community, right? Everybody feels, that they're overtaxed, or they complain about it in some fashion or form or whatever. I just think, I mean, that is not a hill I want to die on. You know what I mean? Like, look, just pay it, and just try to make more. You can't fight that machine. So.
I mean, you can, but you'll lose.
You will lose. That's right. And your life will be miserable unless that's who you want to be, right? I mean, you talked about, who was it? You talked about Peter Schiff, right? I mean, and his dad, I think,
Yep.
I mean, that's the whole, I think that's the majority where the notoriety came from, rather than, their broker dealer or anything like that. But I mean, he's somebody whose, channel I've subscribed to for a long time. I've met him quite a few times and have done business in the past with his firm. And, I don't, everybody talks about like, well, is he just trying to like promote, everybody moving into gold to try to affect the price because of his own holdings and this, that, and the other? Or, I think there's other guys out there that have a lot bigger stick when it comes to that stuff than he does, right? And so I think he's just, a believer in what he's preaching. That's my take on him. And I think a lot of what he says, resonates with the gold and silver community, the stacking community or the gold bug community.
No, yeah, not to get too political, but like the libertarian aspect of it all, it was the reason that I was kind of like, okay, what you're saying about how, government should be run, and, certain things about, politics and freedom of speech and, the non-aggression principle and things that, I don't know, I kind of resonate with, were the reason why I kind of found them interesting. And then, he's honestly one of the reasons why I got into gold and silver. And that's because of what he was saying. But again, like he's a pumper, and I just want to make that very clear.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, that's the thing, he's very opinionated, and I think that's what, why he's got the notoriety he does, and a lot of what he says I think makes sense. But and like you said, clock's right twice a day, all this stuff. But the kind of events that the people in that side of on that side of the coin are, what they're saying, and the people that are talking about those dramatic events, and like, the potential for gold to, have this, hyperbolic move. And there is, if that occurs, which I think eventually it will, it could not even be in his lifetime. Right. And then like, so he goes to, he goes through his whole life pounding the table on, this is going to happen, and it may actually be his grandkids or something where, that impact. Now, some of the writing's on the wall that it might be sooner than that, but we'll have to wait and see. But I think a lot of people that, just kind of push off that sort of, like you're saying, that pumping of, ideals and trying to drive prices and certain things, there's also some legitimate truths behind what they're saying. So it's just a question of when they're right, and right. Again, that's what I've made comments like that to others and interacting on channels and stuff. It's like, this is the space that we are all in, and that we're looking at within, the precious metals community, and regardless of which, if you're a collector, a flipper, a stacker, a prepper, whatever the category is that you fall into, you kind of have subscribed. You're in that community because you've subscribed to the thought process that these guys are talking about, that there is some, imminent, like, bad event that's going to occur that will affect, society or humanity in a negative way, financially for the most part. And, so you're looking to protect against that, plan for yourself and for your family, et cetera. Right. And, or benefit from it from a financial standpoint. Right. And so, the question is, the markets that we're in, they're cyclical. The question is not whether that's going to happen. Like you and I were talking about this earlier, right? Is there's like the one thing about gold and silver, right, is if you look in historical, right, it is held value. It has been used for commerce. It has been a store of wealth. That you can't go back and say, well, gold broke down and failed, and nobody was willing to take it during this 500-year period. It just didn't exist. In written history, that does not exist. But there is not a single example of fiat currency working.
Right, or at least for a significant period of time, right? I mean, for a long haul, every single fiat currency that has existed is no more, right? And again, those are all things that, like, again, these pumpers, they have the right information, right? They have the right foundation for pretty much why we do kind of what we do. It's just the fact that it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen now, and make sure you do this now, and you have to go all in this now. And it's just that narrative, right? That it's going to happen now, and you got to do it now, or else you're going to miss out. And then again, fear of missing out comes out. Like, you're telling me, silver's $14. You're telling me it's going to be, $50, $100. You just be like, we talked about Bix saying that it can be $10,000. I think is one of the most craziest videos that I've seen. But again, technically, right? If the dollar goes to crap, and like hyperinflation, I mean, it could, right? But it's very interesting.
Absolutely. I mean, it's, we're most of the countries that you're looking at where there are recent examples of that, people are talking about, hey, Venezuela, you walk, buy some groceries, you could have a wheelbarrow of fiat, right? And you could take one of their coin, like a bolivar that is made out of silver, and walk in there and get a month's worth of food for it because of the silver content, the value that's stored there in the actual metal. So you get these kind of conversations that go on. And I think, you're, for the most part, we're comparing less developed areas of the world, right? Like underdeveloped or third world, even in some cases. And you've got, the development curve is what's going to prolong or impact those things from happening. So yeah, the hyperinflationary period and, that going on in the US, I think it has more to do with, international stresses. And then we start getting into, these macro discussions of China and Russia, European landmass, and, like effectively, what we're dealing with today being a result of us actually not, getting what we wanted out of World War II, right? Which is basically to control the Euro landmass, and expecting that England would, and that, and getting it away from Germany, and that didn't happen. So that's what you have going on. There's a lot of tumult in, that neck of the woods, and that part of the world, as a result of controlling commerce at the end of the day, right? And growth. And so and world growth, like, world GDP, right? Like that's what all of that is about, to me. And so I think that what it's going to take for that to happen in the US is going to be multifaceted. And, it's just I think that a bigger issue that we're dealing with is, the sustainability, with the current system here, right? There'd be a bigger downturn, a bigger recessionary period that hits, that sort of hits a reset button or corrects things, and possibly we go back to, the fiat system being backed by something real, like gold, like it was 100 years ago. So that's sort of the question, is what will happen? What will this administration or any other administration do about correcting a problem? That we all see the writing on the wall, but that there, as long as 90% of America doesn't get it, and as long as the world, oil trade is creating that sort of false support for the U.S. dollar, then it's going to be prolonged. Unlike
Right.
world countries, which that does not happen.
Right, they don't have that luxury, right? But there's this guy, he has a YouTube channel too. His I think it's iGold Advisor. I don't know if you heard of him before.
I'm
Uh, yeah, he's pretty good. I think everyone should check him out. iGold Advisor. He says, the markets, the economy, everything can be pointing at a certain thing to happen, but if the masses don't go with it, it just won't happen, right? Like if everyone keeps doing what they're doing, keeps putting money in the S&P 500 ETF on their 401k, that's most people. So things keep happening until people like us or people switch, and there's like a trigger for it to swap. But if people are just keep doing what they're doing, it's going to be hard for things to change. Something big has to happen.
Yeah, and we'll see, right? We're all watching it unfold all the time, and I think the hardest part is, like, you can't turn on a TV and find out what's really going on anymore, right? Like the news has lost all value. It's like political football, I mean, it's just, or political tennis, you switch from one channel to see what's going on to another. I mean, you just can't get kind of real world news. I was talking to somebody else. It was like, they just get all their news off of YouTube at this point, and that's slanted towards whatever they subscribe to for the most part, right? Or international news, right? They're tuning into, BBC or some other, news program internationally, because, like, the U.S., the media is just, pounding the table about how much they hate the other party,
Oh, yeah, it's just so biased, right? Like everything is so biased. It's insane. Like you can't get any information that's unbiased nowadays. Even everyone has their tendencies, right? Like if you don't like a certain politician, it's hard for you to, to be just, to leave your bias in the side. Those biases are always going to exist. But I think nowadays it's just like super obvious which way CNN leans, which way CNBC leans, Fox Business. Like, it's just, what you're getting into. And like you said, people subscribe, like, no pun intended, to what they agree with. So there's no challenging going on their views, right? It's just like, oh, this is how I see it. And look at this guy, he has a bunch of followers, so he must be right. Or look at this news network, see, like, they know what they're talking about, but it's just you reassuring your own biases.
It's absolutely it, right? Find somebody that thinks the way you do and believes the way you do, and affirm the belief. It's kind of what it is. It's like, original thought has really declined, and you can't get actual news the same way that you used to be able to. And it's kind of an interesting thing. Hey, shifting gears on you real quick. I know you've got to run pretty quick, and I'm just curious what you think. So I've been transitioning lately. So we talked about, kind of how we got into all this. I love sharing my finds with folks on YouTube, and kind of like, because of that, I do mostly unboxing videos. That's just, and then I end up finding something that I bought. Let's say it's a, 1963 proof set, and I find, some double die. So I end up down a rabbit hole of, the coin and collectible side of it while I'm building a stack. So I get a lot of crossover in who is interested in, my content, and I'm chatting back and forth with, and it's very similar to the guys I watch. But one of the things that you may have noticed recently is I've been getting into poured silver. I've never been exposed to this. I've never been, and our friend, Silver Baggins, our mutual friend, right, that has, recently taken that up. I mean, he's another one of those guys that kind of started a channel around the same time, and popped up and just blew up, right? And I think that, and not to a viral extent, but I mean, he's got a significant amount of growth in a short period of time. And he's very entertaining, really good content, great guy. I started watching him when he was pulling those cans out of the trash, and I was like, I saw it, like, there was no face on the video, but you saw a can fly out of the trash can. I don't know if you saw that video.
Yeah, no, that's what kind of got me into his channel, because I was like, whoa, look at this guy. It kind of showed that anyone can get into this, right? Anyone can start. Even if you don't have the funds, you can just go ahead and recycle and buy silver that way. So I thought that was very admirable.
Yeah, I think so too. And like, my kids will walk by and go, "What are you watching?" I'm like, I'm watching this guy dumpster diving, and they're like, "You need to get a life," like. But the whole point of it was like entertaining as could be, and what he was getting at, his end result was a pretty cool thing, to stack without coming out of pocket, and the kind of the idea behind it, that it can be open to a lot of people. We were having that conversation earlier, how you got guys that are kind of the gold purists, but why is silver stacking, which is closely tied to value on that, done so much more? And it really has to do with the barrier to entry, right? The barrier to entry to stacking silver is so much lower because the cost is lower currently than gold in that ratio, right? So I think that's why more people get into silver, and I think it makes sense. And poured, that brings me to like poured, which a lot of times is where there's some premiums, and we were having this discussion about what do you think about high premium silver and this kind of stuff. The poured stuff to me is like artwork. I mean, these guys that pour this stuff, I would love to maybe try that out. But even Baggins, he's doing like a graphite mold with, some ripples in it. I mean, it's, it's not rocket surgery, right, as they say, but
right.
But it's pretty cool what he comes out with. And then his dragon stamp, I mean, the stuff, it's really gorgeous. If you're into silver, it's cool to look at. And I've sort of accumulated a little, box of poured stuff that I'm really enjoying. That side of it, there's only so many, Washington quarters or Morgans or $3 gold coins that you can stack before, you're kind of like, yeah, it looks like every other one, right? But that silver pour comes out different every time. So, it's a fun way to keep doing what you're doing. And I'm just wondering on you, how's your stack coming? I mean, is it you adding the poured stuff to it, or what have you been stacking?
I don't own any like community pours. There's just that the price point isn't right for me. I think it's definitely a work of art. There's some channels out there that have been doing this for a long time. Silverback Stacker, I don't know if you know who he is. He has some, some crazy stuff, like work of arts. Who's the guy?
I own some of his pieces, man. You got to check out my video on him. I actually have done. So I did 2 trades with him. So you're talking about price point. I actually traded constitutional silver with him for his poured artwork.
Wow.
And so, I gave him a premium because, he's putting his blood, sweat, and tears and his heart into that. I mean, it's a piece of art, and really, he went above and beyond for me. You got to watch the video. I mean,
Yeah, I need to check.
I mean, it's amazing.
And then also, who else who I like a lot? Backyard Bullion. I think those 2 guys definitely have some beautiful, beautiful works of art.
I just picked up a Backyard Bullion piece too.
Yeah, and I saw that and I was like, ooh, that is super nice. But for me, right now it's not in the price point. I have a local coin shop nearby that has, like some Scottsdale silver. It's not poured, right? Or is it, what is it?
Some of them are.
Cast iron or something like that. I don't know what it is, but it looks cool and there's like lines and ripples on it. And I think it's cool. And I get that for like $1.50 over spot. So I think they have a few JM bars and some Engelhard bars that I might go check out this weekend. And if the price point is right, I might pick them up. But to me, as of now, I think I need to start investing or putting money towards the gold side of it. But I haven't done any purchases lately just because it's the holidays. And, you have to watch your budget sometimes, sometimes things come up. And that's why I tell everyone to make sure you have cash on hand. And I have to touch the savings because something has been coming up, but my silver stays there. I don't have to touch that. So that's why I haven't been really doing any purchases lately. But I think if it's for you, just be careful. Just know what your goals are, and just be careful.
I'm limited on my spend too, Clever. I'm just telling you, like, if you were, I'm just letting you know, if you see stuff out there like Backyard or like SBS, hit those guys up on one of their channel videos and just say, hey, I would love to do a trade with you. You'd be surprised, like stuff that a couple of rounds that you're getting at spot, right? And as it creeps back up, maybe your cost point is below spot. They'll do trades with you on stuff like that, man. And then your price point, and of course, there's only a limited number that they could do. If they get 1,000 people hitting them up for a trade at once, right? They're not gonna be able to handle it. But if you're limited on that, you want to do it, I would recommend you hit them up, dude. They know who you are. They see you in the chats and they're interacting with you. They would appreciate the shout out video too.
Yeah, everyone go hit up what's his name, Silverback Stacker. Tell him that I want him on. I told him that I wanted to get him on because, dude, that guy is an awesome just an artist.
Yeah, he's just, I mean, dude, even the other pourers that like started way before him, they're like, you should see some of the stuff he's doing with like 4-legged animals. I guess that's really hard to pour a 4-legged animal for some reason and get it to like be able to stand up and everything, right? I mean, he's doing some unreal looking art coming out of his channel for sure.
Yeah, but like I said, I have to go at 8 o'clock, so I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap up here. Sorry, guys. We should have. I don't know. I need to do a better job figuring out what time I'm gonna start and what day. So I know there's a lot of people, going live and watching. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Nadia Silver, Alejandra, muchas gracias. Kendall Kid, Mr. Monkey Swag, Vivian, Silver Santos 77, muchas gracias por venir, amigo. Silver Saint runs marathons with Silver Chimp. That's what they do on the weekends. But I really, Turning Wheels, thank you so much, everyone here. I really do appreciate you guys so much. Dude, Value Hunter is just like a wealth of knowledge. Make sure you guys check him out. His channel will be linked in the description down below. Awesome guy. I would love to have you on again or be on your channel, dude, and keep the conversation going on some other day.
Yeah, I gotta figure out how to do a stream and then you be my first guest. How's that?
Yeah, it's not that hard, dude. We'll help you. I'll walk you through it here soon.
I appreciate it. Hey, thanks for having me on, Clever Coin. Thanks for everybody in the chat and you guys joining. It's been a lot of fun and for listening to me rant tonight, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Peace out, guys. Love you. Good night.
Late.